Come along as we search for an iconic North Carolina tree.
We're highlighting easy hikes on well-maintained trails. We don't need all of the technical equipment to go explore.
I'm Rachel Lewis Hilburn. Andy Wood is our guide. Along the way, we'll learn about why and how this iconic tree lives here, what makes it iconic in the first place, and who else lives here because of it. Truth be told, we have another goal.
We're here to encourage people to unplug, get outdoors, and reconnect.
How intense is this hike gonna be?
There's a little bit of topography here, but we don't need crampons and all of the technical equipment to go explore.
When you say topography, you mean slightly hilly.
Yes, and that is what begets the name of this area, Sandhills.
This looks nothing like a traditional forest. Tall, skinny pine trees dot sandy, gentle slopes with a few scrubby bushes spread throughout. Then, Andy points out the wiregrass.
One of the most important plants in this community is the wiregrass. And wiregrass serves as a fuel for naturally occurring wildfire. This ecosystem requires fire. So you see all these shrubs that are growing up. If left to their own, this will grow into a dense thicket.
If that's fuel for the fire, then why doesn't it just completely wipe out this whole longleaf pine savanna? Why doesn't it harm the trees?
Over time, the longleaf pine has adapted to living in this open system using a couple of strategies. One, they develop a thick bark, and that acts as insulation against the heat of a low fire that sweeps through here every few years.
What about the animals?
When a fire comes through here, lots of insects and spiders are taken out. The fleet-footed animals like lizards, they can get out of the way. Slower things like toads and turtles, box turtles, if they get a whiff of the smoke, they may actually start hunkering down under the leaf litter. The life history of the longleaf is actually pretty complex. Each pine cone contains hundreds of seeds. The seed drops out of the pine cone, and if it hits on top of a leaf, it may just dry out and die. But if it hits mineral soil, then it can germinate.
Which is why the fire is so important, because it clears away the
Exactly.
leaf.
It clears off the leaf litter, exposing mineral sandy soil, and then the seed drops onto that mineral soil soon after a fire and germinates and spends the next several months to a year drilling a taproot.
When a longleaf pine tree is in the earliest growth stages, all you see are a few clusters of needles. To the uninitiated eye, it looks a lot like the wiregrass that grows all around it, which serves as fuel for these beneficial fires that help the longleaf pine trees thrive.
So it drills a taproot into the ground, and in the first months of its life, that taproot may be 12 to 24 inches deep. It grows very quickly. That's where it's putting its energy, in developing that taproot, because again, this is growing in sandy soil, well drained, typically pretty dry.
How is this biodiverse? I see wiregrass, I see longleaf pine trees. I think I've heard that the red-cockaded woodpecker makes its home in the longleaf pine, but other than that...
For example, right here, when you look up about 30 feet, you can just make out on that branch of the tree behind this tree, red-headed woodpecker. And there's downy, sapsucker, hairy woodpecker, red-bellied, red-headed, pileated, and the red-cockaded.
7 different types of just woodpeckers that Andy has named are likely to make their homes in this very ecosystem. And as we're about to see, there is much more biodiversity within these sandhills that simply didn't evolve to stand out.
Oh my, good spot, Rachel.
What is it?
An eastern fence lizard.
Hello.
How cool is that? They don't get more camouflage than that.
The eastern fence lizard feeds primarily on insects and spiders. In turn, the lizards draw small birds of prey, kestrels, sharp-shinned hawks to the area to feed on them.
Oh my gosh, holy cow. Well, here's a treat.
This is one of the largest longleaf pine trees in the world. It's also a former state champion tree, once celebrated as the largest in North Carolina. It's since been dethroned and is now likely in the number 2 spot.
Have you ever seen a tree this large? A longleaf pine this large?
No.
Although park officials say this tree is 81 feet tall, that's not extraordinary by longleaf standards. Its circumference is what makes it a standout, almost 10 feet around at chest height.
Imagine, before this forest was cleared, this was what covered the entire area we're standing in, were trees this big, and maybe even a little bit bigger. And from Virginia, North Carolina to East Texas, this is what the American Southeast was covered with. This tree has been standing here hundreds of years.
How deep do you think its taproot goes?
Easily 12 to 20 feet deep.
Wow.
Through sand. This is very sandy soil here. So it's drilled that taproot that deep. It's a huge carrot of a taproot holding tons of tree up in the air.
How much more of a lifespan does it have?
Maybe 100 years,
So
but that's a wild guess.
this one will be here probably long after we're gone.
Oh, without a doubt.
That's something to think about.